We are historical climatologists. What we do is we look through the records, and we look at man-made records, which can go back to the 800s. You know, you may think of a monk as a holy man. I think of him as an agribusiness man with a flair for record keeping. We have man-made records, tree rings, ice cores, anything that we can get our hands on that has a year-to-year climate record. And according to scientists, when you put it all together, you have a year-to-year climate record for the last 100,000 years. So here's what James and I do. We look at the 5 years of the most similar factors, and we tell people this is what happened 80% of the time in the past. We are not predicting the future. We are telling you what happened in the past. We are giving you perspective so that you can make educated decisions. You can know what normally happened. Now, let me show you what is going on and what factors are shaping this year's weather. James.
Now, most of you at this point have probably heard from the media that we're in an El Nino. Most of you also, considering your businesses, have known we have been in El Nino for quite a while, and thank you very much for being late on the times as far as the media goes. But if you look at the media, they don't just say we're in an El Nino. We're in a Godzilla El Nino. We're in a Bruce Lee El Nino. We're in the worst El Nino in history. Always keep in mind that history, by media standards, is 45 years. That's when most of the satellite imagery was started to be collected in the mid-70s. We haven't even gone through one full cycle of the Atlantic or the Pacific. But still, Godzilla El Nino, worst in history. In addition to the El Nino, we're also being influenced by a volcano, Bartabunga, because I like to say it too. So we're going to cover those two things and how they're affecting, how they affected and how they are currently going to affect our short-term weather. And along with the El Nino, along with Bartabunga, as many of you have seen, we go over several different oceanic oscillations. We go over the MJO, which I like to call the toilet flush of the ocean. If you've ever been in a shower and somebody flushes the toilet on you, you get burned or you get frozen solid by hot or cold water, that's what MJOs do. They surge a little bit of really hot or really cold water into the ocean, which can offset the current trend that the ocean is showing. We look at the IOD, the Indian Ocean Dipole. I've studied this thing so extensively over the past couple years for my trips to Asia because this is very important to them. But in turn, it has an impact also on how we have to conduct business here in the US. We look at monsoons and the way that monsoons interact with each other and how they interact with other current climate events such as hurricanes or El Ninos or La Ninas have a major impact on the type of rainfall that we can expect currently and in the future seasons. We look at El Ninos and La Ninas. You'll hear plenty about that. We look at the PDO, the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. I get to name drop Pacific Decadal and Atlantic multidecadal at various parties. It makes me sound a lot smarter than I might actually be, so I really enjoy the lingo. But this is a cycle that's currently in a cold trend for North America and is influencing our weather along with the AMO, Atlantic multidecadal oscillation, which is warm. All these oceanic conditions are like the gears of a clock. They shape the weather that we are experiencing, and they work with each other so that we can help determine what sort of weather is coming for us, so we can be proactive instead of reactive to it.